I could feel the electricity in the air long before I even arrived. That night had been marked on my calendar for weeks, a party everyone had been talking about, organized by the one person who meant more to me than they probably realized. Alex. Alex had been my best friend for as long as I could remember, the kind of person who could make you feel like the most important soul in the room with just a glance. And despite every attempt to suppress it, I knew I had fallen for them a long time ago. The invitation had come with a casual message. "You have to be there?" I hadn't even hesitated. Maybe part of me hoped that tonight, something between us would finally shift, that Alex might see me in a different light. I spent extra time getting ready, choosing something simple but special, heart-pounding with a mixture of excitement and nerves. As I walked in, laughter, music, and the hum of conversation washed over me. The place was alive, buzzing with people I vaguely recognized and many I didn't. My eyes searched instinctively for Alex, and when I finally spotted them, it was like the world snapped into focus. They looked incredible, bright-eyed, smiling, magnetic. For a moment, nothing else mattered. But then, almost like a cruel trick, I saw someone standing next to them. Taylor. I had heard the name in passing over the last few weeks, but seeing them together made it real. Taylor's hand casually rested on Alex's arm, their body language familiar in a way that screamed intimacy. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile and made my way over. Alex greeted me with a kind of hug that lingered just a second too long, just enough to stoke that dangerous hope inside me. Taylor was polite, charming even, but something about their perfect exterior unsettled me, like a painting too flawless to be real. I tried to shake the feeling, blaming it on jealousy, and told myself tonight was about celebrating, not mourning possibilities. We spent the first part of the evening catching up, laughing about old jokes, clinking glasses filled with cheap champagne. Every moment with Alex felt like slipping into a favorite old sweater, comforting and bittersweet all at once. Taylor drifted in and out of conversations, always seeming half-distracted, always checking their phone. It barely registered. I was too focused on Alex, on memorizing every second. At one point, Alex looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read, something tender, almost apologetic. I smiled back, ignoring the unease creeping into my gut. I told myself it was just nerves, just the pressure of being near the person I had loved in silence for so long. It couldn't be anything more. As the night wore on, that silent promise hung between us like unspoken words. Maybe tonight would be different. Maybe everything I had wished for was finally within reach. It was a dangerous hope, reckless and stubborn, but it was mine. I didn't know it yet, but the night was just beginning, and by the end, nothing would ever feel the same again. April 27th, 8:17 a.m., Fahad Ali Baloch. Alex pulled me into the center of the party, like it was just the two of us against the world. Every glance, every laugh, every brush of the hand felt heavier than it should have. I kept searching for meaning in the smallest gestures, convincing myself that maybe the feelings I harbored weren't one-sided after all. In those moments, it was easy to forget that Taylor even existed. It was easy to imagine that maybe, just maybe, Alex felt the same way. The music slowed, and without a word, Alex reached for my hand. We swayed together, moving instinctively, as if the world had faded away. It felt natural, effortless, and I found myself lost in the warmth of it. Our eyes locked, and the air between us shifted. It wasn't just friendship. I knew that. I felt it in every heartbeat, every breath caught between us. It would have been so easy to lean in, to close the tiny space between us, to finally find the answer I had been aching for. But something held both of us back, a wall invisible yet unbreakable. Taylor reappeared, smiling, wrapping an arm around Alex's waist, and pulling them away with a kiss on the cheek that felt more like a claim than an act of affection. I stepped back, my heart falling faster than I could catch it. I laughed it off, made some excuse to grab another drink, but inside, the cracks were already starting to form. I watched them from across the room, noticing things I hadn't wanted to see before. Taylor whispering to someone else a little too intimately, disappearing into the crowd when no one was paying attention. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself tonight was still mine. Alex kept finding their way back to me, each conversation feeling like a secret shared in a crowded room. They smiled brighter when they talked to me. They laughed louder. Or maybe that's just what I wanted to believe. Either way, I clung to it, desperate for some confirmation that the connection I felt wasn't just a cruel trick my heart was playing on me. At one point, we found ourselves outside on the balcony, the noise of the party muffled behind us. Alex leaned against the railing, staring out at the city lights, their voice soft and almost sad as they spoke about feeling lost, about wanting something real in a world that felt so fake. I listened, every word carving deeper into my soul. They turned to me then, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen them. In that moment, if they had asked me to love them forever, I would have said yes without hesitation. But the words never came. Instead, Alex smiled a sad, tired smile and said they were lucky to have a friend like me. Friend. The word hit harder than any slap could. I nodded, pretending it didn't gut me, pretending it didn't unravel every dream I had woven about us. Somewhere deep down, I knew that night wasn't building toward a confession. It was building toward a collapse. I needed a moment alone. The weight of everything was pressing down harder than I could handle. I wandered through the house aimlessly, trying to shake off the heavy feeling settling in my chest. That's when I saw it. Barely a glimpse at first, but enough to freeze me in place. In a dimly lit hallway, Taylor was backed against the wall, locked in a kiss that was anything but innocent. And it wasn't with Alex. It wasn't even discreet. It was careless, sloppy, the kind of betrayal that didn't fear being caught because it had happened too many times before. Shock anchored me to the floor. For a moment, I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was a mistake. But the longer I stared, the more undeniable it became. Taylor wasn't just unfaithful, they were reckless about it. My first instinct was to run to Alex, to tear down every illusion before it could hurt them any further. But another voice, quieter and crueler, whispered that maybe Alex already knew. Maybe the truth wasn't a secret at all. I found myself outside again, gulping the cool night air like it could clear the bitterness from my throat. Minutes later, Alex joined me, smiling as if nothing had changed, as if my entire view of the night hadn't just been shattered. I watched them carefully, searching for cracks, for signs of suspicion or sadness. But Alex's smile didn't waver. That was when the awful realization hit me. This wasn't news to them. They had chosen this. In a shaky voice, I hinted around what I'd seen, testing the waters. Alex's face didn't even flinch. They shrugged, saying quietly that it was complicated. That Taylor wasn't perfect, but they didn't want to be alone. I stared at them, trying to piece together how someone who meant so much to me could accept so little for themselves. Worse, how they could keep me close, knowing exactly how I felt, using my loyalty as a cushion for their own loneliness. It wasn't just Taylor's betrayal that gutted me, it was Alex's. They had let me believe, even encouraged me to believe, that there was something unspoken and special between us. Maybe there had been. Maybe it just hadn't been enough. Or maybe I had just been a safety net, an emotional backup plan when the real thing fell apart. The party around us blurred into meaningless noise. I heard Alex's voice, light and casual, asking if I was okay, if I wanted to stay a little longer. As if I could. As if staying would mean I agreed to play the role they had quietly written for me all along. I forced a smile, the kind that cracks around the edges, and shook my head. Without saying goodbye, without another word, I turned and walked away. The night was no longer magical. It was poisoned, soured by a truth too heavy to carry. Every step away from the house felt like a step toward finally waking up from a dream that had never been mine to begin with. April 27th, 8:20 a.m., Fahad Ali Baloch. The night air stung against my skin as I walked away, but I welcomed it. It was cleaner than the atmosphere I had left behind. My heart felt heavier with every step, but strangely, there was a clarity to the pain. It stripped away all the illusions I had clung to, leaving only the truth. I had built something beautiful in my mind, but it was never real. Alex had never been mine, not in the way I needed, not in the way I deserved. They had known it, and deep down so had I. I wandered without direction, just needing to move, needing to feel distance between myself and everything I had just learned. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I didn't even look. I knew it would be Alex, checking in, trying to smooth over a wound they pretended not to see. I let it ring. Some things couldn't be fixed with a text or a soft apology. Some things broke in ways that demanded space, silence, an ending. By the time I finally stopped walking, I found myself sitting on a park bench under a flickering streetlight. It was almost laughable how cinematic it all felt, like some tragic ending to a story I hadn't realized I was starring in. But there were no grand declarations coming. No one was chasing after me. I was alone, and for the first time that night, I accepted it. I replayed every moment of the evening in my mind, this time without the rose-colored filter. The lingering hugs, the longing looks, they hadn't been signs of something about to begin. They were goodbyes disguised as hope. Alex had been saying farewell in the only way they knew how, clinging to something familiar before letting it slip away. I had been clinging too, but not to reality. To a fantasy. It would have been easy to let bitterness take root, to hate Taylor for their betrayal, to resent Alex for their silence. But sitting there, breathing in the cold, lonely night, I realized anger wouldn't heal anything. It wouldn't change what had happened. It wouldn't rewrite the choices that had led me here. The only thing I could control now was what happened next. I stood up, feeling the weight of the night settle in my bones, but also feeling strangely lighter. I had given my heart to someone who couldn't hold it, and while that hurt, it didn't make my love any less real. It didn't make my loyalty, my hope, or my dreams foolish. It made them honest. It made me honest. And that was something I could still be proud of. As I made my way home, I promised myself that this would be the last night I let someone else's uncertainty define my worth. I wouldn't be someone's second choice, someone's emotional crutch, someone they leaned on when convenient. I deserved more, and for the first time, I truly believed it. The party was over, and so was the chapter one had been too afraid to close. It hurt, but it was also the beginning of something better, something I would find, not in someone else's arms, but within myself.